26th. The order of business is we have a moratorium to our liquor license code and a report on the virus response by the city. There will be no changes to the order of business. Let the record show that we have 4 present commissioners and 1 present by telephone. Commissioner Frederick. Mr. Goff.
Yes, thank you, President Decker. Do we just want to roll into the first agenda item? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Can't change the order of business.
In discussing this resolution that's in front of you, as the coronavirus impact started to happen, this has been now a little over a week ago, we started to get some calls from businesses about some changes to their business plans and adjusting to this new environment. And they started out relatively simple. A couple of businesses downtown, restaurants saying, hey, if we go to just curbside and carry out, can we have some signage for some spots? We'll put up our own signage, we'll take it down. Yeah, that's great, that's an easy adjustment. Then we received a call about a liquor store that had an old drive-through window back when they were still allowed by city ordinance. And is that something that as this progressed would be possible? And then once the restaurants closed to dining options and was just carry out or a curbside and a lot of doing delivery, we started getting questions about alcohol sales. Could the restaurants extend their license? They don't have an off-sale license. That's not part of the restaurant license. Could they continue to utilize their license and carry out or with curbside have alcoholic beverages as far as their purchase, similar to if you were setting in a table at that place the same way? So that's something that came up. I started to discuss that with the mayor and some of the staff and commissioners, seeing where we were on that. We decided in lieu with the new meeting standards, in lieu of having liquor license owners come in, that we would have some basically meetings with them over the phone. So we had 3 of those on Tuesday afternoon. The first one was with the liquor store owners. They were very supportive of the restaurants being able to do some carry out and curbside. And that group, we also discussed the opportunity for a drive-in window at the one. They were very supportive of that. So that's kind of what came from that group. The second group was the bar owners, who really essentially, if you think about what a bar does, they have an on-sale, off-sale license, but basically it's pretty much on sale. So we had a very good conversation with them. That's where it was clarified that this was not the delivery of alcohol. It had to be picked up by folks 21 years of age or older, served by someone 21 years or age or older at that food establishment. So that's where that started to evolve. And also that really bars, if they wanted to still do off-sale, be open just for off-sale, carry out, they could do that. And they were a few of them were very happy about that, trying to keep a few folks employed. So that was good, very positive. And then we got to the restaurants and started that discussion. And we were really thinking closed container. And again, everything you have to change what you thought. And we thought a closed container was an unopened bottle or can, beer or wine. We weren't talking about anything else. Through consultation with that businesses, we realized that a lot of the businesses, their alcohol sales, their beer sales is done by tap. So if they could use growlers and have it that was their biggest concern. So we had that discussion. So that's in the resolution in front of you as far as the draft. So that's how all of this got together. We talked about that once restaurants can be opened, this disappears. Again, no delivery, it's strictly carry out, have some things in there. And it really just suspends some of the things in our ordinance for a period of time. And that's how we got to it. I guess we'd be open to any questions, or if the chief or attorney have anything to add.
Mr. President.
Mr. Steiner.
2 questions. How do they seal a growler?
A lot of times, a growler might have a lid you put on it or a cover. I know some places I have seen in particular where they would do a weekly special, excuse me, of a type of beer, and you'd bring your growler back in. You buy a growler and then you can carry it back in and out. And they just do some sort of taped seal over the top of it.
My concern is if the police stop them and it's considered an open container at a certain point, how do we address that?
We'll let the chief take that one.
You know, I don't know if you'd put a cap on those growlers and they snap to a certain point to where it locks it in, and then you gotta break the seal or something like that.
Well, and that's what some, do you tape around the seal? Do you put a tape over it? So if they see somebody walking with the tape over it, but chief, what do you think?
I guess we didn't want to get too complicated with what we're considering a seal. We're just basically looking for some type of a sticker or a solid piece of tape that will go over across the top of it that shows that it hasn't been cracked open or opened up. So
Okay.
we didn't want to get into the weeds too far as what do we consider a seal with it.
We need to address it now before then, so,
Correct.
good.
And
good,
I
okay.
think during the discussion with the actual restaurants, that we clarified that they need to have some way of showing us that they are, it's a sealed container.
Yeah.
And I think the understanding was, their general understanding is they will do
Okay.
that.
My second question is the drive-through. Is that a state law?
It is not a state law. There are a few that exist in the state,
Okay.
but it is city ordinance, I think, back in the 70s.
Before your time even, Mr.
Oh, I was one of
Mr.
those.
Steiner.
I was one of those that,
It was 1978, I think.
I was one of those that drive up.
Commissioner Steiner, that was the police department's concern as well. We did have Attorney Wankel do some research on that.
Okay,
So-
good, thank
Yes.
you.
So we did clarify that it is not a state.
Yeah, to address that, based on Chief Dossinger's request, I did look in the Century Code with regard to alcoholic beverages, and there isn't a prohibition on that. And then also, just so that the commission is aware, this resolution is modeled after the city of Fargo and the city of Minot for consistency. So this isn't something new that we've created. This is, again, keeping consistent with what
Good.
other larger
Good.
cities are doing.
I agree, we gotta do whatever we can to make this smooth for these people, to make some money and keep some employees and so on, so.
Any other questions, commissioners, on this resolution?
Mr. President, I would just make a comment. I think this is a progressive movement forward for some of our businesses who are struggling. This is a large part of the revenue that they get with their business. So I think by doing the best we can to meet the needs of different businesses in our community is the right way to go. And just to clarify, this does sunset on April 6th, correct?
It does not.
It's included in here, shall extend until 11/59.
I thought we were going to make it effective of the,
April 6th is the
It's
effective date of the executive order
okay,
issued by the
so we're
governor.
going to model it off the executive order date.
Yep, and
so-
then, so the commission will have the opportunity, the way that it's drafted, to extend it if you choose to do so by
Okay.
an additional resolution, or if the governor were to issue an executive order extending that April 6th deadline, you
Okay.
could also do the same and follow suit.
Could we add a statement now that said on this date, or, because I'm pretty sure that's going to get extended.
Earliest
And
of.
I think,
I think it's going to get extended too. I think that's why we had that discussion earlier, that it would go as long as the executive order from the governor. But, I mean, I'm fine with the date in there too, so. But we could also add the statement, if it extends, if the governor extends his executive order.
just think the next time we will meet is the 7th, so essentially, we would be catching it on the day it expired, so it wouldn't probably hurt anything if we did that.
Mr. President, Commissioners, it's completely up to you. I can run it concurrent with the executive order if that's what you choose to do. So if the governor extends that order, then this would by default extend itself as well, so.
I think that's what we should do, just because if we're only meet a day after, so there's no confusion that all of a sudden they have to stop, and we don't meet till 4 o'clock, so then they have to stop at, their sales on that day at noon and wait for us at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I think it should run with the governor's executive order.
I would agree. Need that in the form of motion.
Yes, I think once you pass the resolution with that change,
Okay.
Okay.
that would be the motion.
What's the resolution number?
It is 12-2020.
I move to approve resolution 12-2020 with the amendment that we just discussed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve resolution 12-2020 with the amendment.
Second.
In a second. Any further questions for staff? Any comments? Mr. Frederick, any comments?
Nope, I'm good. I've been listening, so
Okay.
everything sounds good to me. Thank you.
Okay, yep. Okay, we'll go ahead and vote. Mr. Steiner?
Aye.
Mrs. Trustum?
Aye.
Ms. Walla?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries for Resolution 12-2020. Mr. Gah, you, next is a report on the city's virus response.
Yes, I think just, thank you, President Decker and Commissioners. I think to just continue, this is something we're trying to keep you up on through daily emails and these types of special meetings. But I think it's a good time that we're here to really discuss really what we're doing. And when I talk about the city, there's really two things that we talk about. We're the city as an employer, as a business, so to speak, with buildings. And then we're a governmental entity with citizens. And those are really two separate things when we talk about it. So we'll first start talking about what we've done as a city employer organization. We have limited buildings to our public access, much like most governmental entities across the country have done. That has been working fairly well, we think. We've set up some alternatives for that. It's worked fairly well. We've also early on implemented some pretty aggressive procedures in how to deal with folks that have been traveling, if they were showing signs of illness, and creating some very forgiving policies that allow us to make the choice and not penalize the employee if they're staying at home, and not making them use their leave, being a little flexible for those that are having some daycare issues, that might have sick children. We've found out a lot about our employees and some of the issues they might be dealing with, illnesses with themselves and their family members. And we've been very accommodating to that. I think we've been very good. We're probably at the point now we're talking about, even this morning, we were talking about what's the next steps. There are 2 cases locally now in Stark County, three this morning.
I was just going to make that announcement, but go ahead.
Yeah, and so that starts to think about how do we expand. We've talked about, do we say employees are going to work at home? Really one thing we talked about today is we have a pretty interesting split in that probably this building, most of the folks in this building probably could be seen as what the categories might be, somewhat non-essential. But when you talk about public works, public safety, those are definitely the essential employees. Some of us in this building would be considered essential employees too. So how does that work, and those sort of things. So we've talked about maybe some reductions of, do we have half the staff in City Hall work one week and half the other week to kind of curb that prevention, and really give people some time to really take care of themselves. Is that an option? We've started just, again, this morning, our staff meeting started that discussion and how that might go. Or do we need to say everybody's going to work from home at City Hall? Do we take some extra precautions in the public safety and the public works? I tend to think that as the virus starts to spread in our community, folks in the essential services that might come down with the virus is probably the best way to thin our workforce temporarily, rather than being too proactive and then being short-serviced out there. I think we'd be really conservative with getting too aggressive there. Those are the things we've talked about as an organization. But then as a city, and I know you folks are getting calls on this, is do we take more aggressive action? We've been following the governor's protocol. If that gets more aggressive, do we continue to follow it? If it doesn't, do we get ahead of it? And those are just the discussions that we'd like to have with you, and see what your thoughts are on any of this.
Mr. Goff, City of Dickinson employees fall in line with the FMLA extension, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we have that protection. I've been following what other communities are doing. I know the City of Bismarck just recently sent their non-essential staff home with the promise to continue to pay them from the budget. I don't know if the commission is there with those thoughts, but I agree that employees are one of your most valuable resources, and we need to make sure that we are respecting their health, and also respecting their dedication to the City of Dickinson. I don't know if like I said, if we're there yet, but I want to make sure that we have protections in place to reassure they have a place here in the city.
I think keep monitoring, when we have a situation come up, we nip it right then and there and as fast as we can.
I think the city staff, I've been involved every morning with the executive team, the calls. We are being as fluid as possible, and I think the city staff and leadership is doing an excellent job of monitoring their individuals and accommodating the individuals to make sure that their health is a priority and that our services to the citizens is our number one concern. To that, I was going to make a statement here just to the citizens of Dickinson and surrounding area. I feel at this time we do not warrant an executive order as much as other cities have. An executive order to stay at home or shelter in place. But I would ask that the citizens understand that our situation will change day to day. And as the COVID-19 patients increase, we will have to make some hard decisions at one point. And that may come in the form of an executive order to stay at home or shelter in place. But at this time, I would just ask you to stay in your home and practice social distancing. And if you must travel outside, let it be only for obtaining food or other household necessities and going to and from work because you are a critical or essential employee. If you are seeking medical care, yes, travel outside your home. If you are caring for dependents or vulnerable people that are at other locations, please do so, but do so with care. And if you are participating in outdoor activities such as exercise because it is essential to your mental health and your physical health, do so by practicing the social distancing of 6 feet and staying away from other parties. I would just ask that at this time. We are dealing with a situation, as you just heard, we have another case reported, so we're up to 3, and that'll come out in the governor's statement, I'm sure, at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock our time, and it's going to continue to change. This is something we're going to have to deal with for the next couple of weeks to months, and we just have to take care of each other and just practice the social distancing and the cleaning of the items that you're touching on a regular basis. We will, as a city staff, keep all essential services running. I will turn it over to Chief Dossinger. I know he had a statement he wanted to say.
I guess in an essence, basically since last week, Monday, March 16th, we basically had a scaled-down version of an EOC at the Public Safety Center in which the mayor has regularly visited and the city administrator. And we've have had numerous conference calls on a daily basis with other department heads within the city of Dickinson, the executive team, and also on a weekly basis with the leadership team. We have reached out to various community leaders in the group. The educators, for example, be one group. We've had weekly communication with the educators, all the schools, including DSU and Head Start, the high schools, so that's been established. We also have twice daily communication, or if needed more, communication with the healthcare officials. That includes the nursing homes, the hospitals, the Dickinson Ambulance Service. So we've got that flow of communication going. We also had a call on a weekly basis with the suppliers, the product suppliers, our grocery stores, the Menards and the Runnings of our community. So that communication is ongoing. We also have had communication with public transit, Prairie Hills Mall, and other groups in our community. So we're making sure that we hear their needs, and if there's anything that we can assist them in these trying times, that we're able to do that. As the mayor had mentioned, this is a very fluid situation from day to day, and it certainly dictates how we react. Public safety, police and fire, we're firing on all cylinders. We haven't deviated from responding to any type of calls. We are taking proactive measures to protect our staff, make sure that they wear their PPE gear, and we're basically, filtering more calls. If there's more calls that we can handle over the phone, we're doing that, so we don't have that contact with the public, unnecessary contact. We're making sure that we practice social distancing whenever we can, and encourage the community to practice that. Introverts in our community have been practicing that for years, so hopefully that continues. So, but open to any questions from the commissioners as far as public safety response or anything we're doing in regards to that.
One of the other groups that we are also in contact with is the county, and that includes the sheriff and the county commissioners. They have their chairman and one of their commissioners on a conference call with us. So we're working, Chief Dossinger's keeping a constant flow of conference calls going out at the Public Safety Center, so everybody's kind of in the loop. And I know sometimes as commissioners you feel out of the loop, but we're trying to keep you as in the loop as we can allowed by the meeting laws. So, and hopefully Mr. Gau's updates on a daily basis are helpful. But it is a very fluid situation, and I hope that there are not a spike in the cases that are reported here, but as the nation continues to struggle with this, I think we're going to see a few more cases in our area too. And people should not just, panic over the lack of us shutting the city down. We still have to conduct business. So,
Chief, when you transport someone in the back of a police car, are they disinfected after every transport?
Yes, we do have a decontamination process in place, a procedure, so our officers are not only decontaminating themselves, but also the squad cars and taking those proactive measures.
they're burning through some product.
Which they should.
Yeah. Any other questions for myself or Chief Dossinger or Mr. Gah?
Nothing here, thanks.
And like I said, just for the citizens of Dickinson, just take care of one another, practice good social distancing, travel only when you need to, and we will get through this. If there are no questions or comments, I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn, a second. We are adjourned.